Welcome back to another episode of the Crime Scene Insiders. I'm your host, Angela Davies, and I'm here with my co host, Dion Watson, and we're going to take you under the barrier tape.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Crime Scene Insiders. And today we are going to be discussing death. And the reason for this episode is because it's one of the things that we always get asked about, isn't it, Ange?
It is, yeah. People are really intrigued by it.
Yeah, it's one of those morbid subjects, isn't it, that everybody's got a real intrigue around.
Yeah.
And also, in 2 weeks' time for our next episode, we are going to be joined by a death investigator from the United States. So, when we say we get asked about death a lot, usually one of the first questions we get is, have you seen a dead body?
And we say, one or two.
Yeah, I think from people listening to our podcast already will know that the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
And many.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that we often get asked as well, how many dead bodies have we seen?
Yeah.
But the truth is you don't really keep a count, do you? It's not something you clock.
Yeah. Sounds so serial killery, doesn't it? I'll just keep a body count.
Body count, yeah.
Yes. On the other side, you don't tend to keep a count.
Not Dexter.
And and the other thing is, like, we deal with it quite often, so actually that count would be a lot, even just from our crime scene work. But when you consider that we are also mass disaster response consultants as well, some of the disasters we've dealt with, the bodies on that are on a huge scale straight away
Yes.
anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. So we have seen a lot of death and seen a lot of dead bodies, and in different forms and different stages of death, I would say as well. So from someone who's recently died all the way up to really badly decomposed bodies.
Yeah.
And that decomposition process can be quite interesting at times as well.
It's fascinating, really, isn't it?
The human body, even after death, is an amazing thing.
It really is.
And we have encountered death in many different circumstances, haven't we? So people who've died by suicide, people who've been murdered, people who've been in accidents,
Yeah.
and then also, like you said, in the mass disaster context, people who've died from drugs overdoses.
Yeah. And then even some that turn out to actually be natural causes.
Natural causes as well.
Yes, there's a whole remit that we attend, isn't there?
Yeah. So when we were crime scene investigators, if somebody had died by suicide, we would go and we used to attend to take photographs for the coroner, but also to check the body to make sure that there was no suspicious circumstances. Because there have been over the years a couple of incidents where bodies have not been checked and later on it's turned out to be a murder. So they often ask for a professional to go down and check those bodies over and make sure there's nothing suspicious there. I think there was one incident that I recall where they'd called it non-suspicious, and
Yeah.
they then called in the funeral directors, and the funeral directors came and rolled the body, and then this guy had a knife in his back.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops, indeed.
That's a big oops, isn't it?
I mean, that's one way to put it.
I didn't see that, sorry.
Just forgot to roll him over. So it is really important that those checks are done. But nowadays, not all scenes of crime investigators go to death by suicides. And I don't know what I think about that for those reasons.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't
It
it?
is. It's when we had Julie on the podcast a few weeks ago, she was talking about her first murder, and the police actually thought that the guy was decomposing and thought that it was natural. And it was the scene investigator actually who called it and said, no, this is murder and it's injuries, not decomposition.
Yeah.
Which, of course, only a professional eye and somebody who's used to looking at that kind of thing would spot.
Yeah, it's very risky taking that away, isn't it?
I think so, but I also think that, is it de-skilling the CSI? Maybe not de-skilling, But because we were going to them and they happen quite frequently, both drugs deaths and death by suicide, you get a lot of exposure to this stuff and a lot of exposure to dead bodies, and it builds up your
Yeah.
experience and also your resilience and also how you handle situations. Imagine you didn't have any of that experience and then you would just drop straight into a brutal murder scene.
Be a lot, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it helps to have visited some of these things. I think it's really important to get that exposure.
And it's like I say, it builds your experience, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
it
also you
does.
get used to seeing again bodies in different states and in different states of decomposition, and it allows you to recognize, and also helps you to do those checks to make sure something is suspicious.
Yeah, it does.
Like everything with the police, the remit of the crime scene investigator in terms of what deaths they will attend is completely different nationally per force. Every force has their own policies around that and who will attend what and when, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But I was really pleased that our force included those deaths at that time for the experiences that we had. Do you remember your first dead body as a CSI?
Oh, I remember my very first one because it was my very first day as a scenes of crime officer.
Really?
Yeah, and it was an interesting first one because it was when I was still with my mentor, and I should have known that it was going to be a bad one.
Oh, God. Oh, I think I remember.
They started getting me suited up, and I have a respirator and things on. We've got a fantastic picture of in
Yeah,
this get up.
might see if we
And
can insert it into this video.
yeah, and my mentor knew I could deal with this sort of thing, and he stayed back and let me go in. Should have known. It was one of those ones we've talked about in our previous podcasts about the conditions in the way some people live. And this was one of those houses that was entirely full of rubbish and hoarding.
Bit smelly,
And
was it?
yeah, it was bad. And the person, I think it was a few weeks had been there, but it was very warm and there wasn't much of the body left. They'd decomposed a lot and were pretty much like a soup, for want of a better word.
A little puddle on the floor, had they
A
melted?
puddle, yeah. And I remember they were upstairs in one of the bedrooms. It was sad because, like I say, it was a hoarder situation, and actually they'd been there for at least a few weeks and nobody had really
No
noticed.
one. Oh, that is sad.
And they were in the bedroom, and the bedroom was just a mattress on the floor, and then
Okay.
all the rubbish was all surrounding the bed. So there was a little walkway where you could get to the bed, and they were on the bed there. In the time I was in, it was probably one of the worst decomposed bodies I seen as well.
Really, your
And it was
first
my
one was your
first
worst
one.
decomposed one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was
Talk about
a
a baptism of fire.
exactly.
Welcome to the job.
Yeah, here you go. And I was I was grateful for the respirator in one way, but it doesn't really stop the smell, does it?
No. So there's a top tip that you're given to deal with smells,
Hmm.
and that is to inhale, which seems
Yeah.
to go against every fiber of your being. Like you're just like, don't breathe, don't breathe.
Yeah.
But actually, the best thing to do is inhale and take some really deep breaths. And then the smell gets into your airways, gets into your lungs, and you no longer can smell it effectively. It's just in you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one of our lecturers going back many years now, Tim James, told us that when you spend a lot of time around death, so if you're in postmortems or at a body scene for a long period, that you breathe it in and actually you can taste it and smell it. And I
Yeah.
never forget, he actually said it's a bit like garlic repeating on you, like when you later you burp with garlic, you taste garlic, you'll
Yeah.
burp and you'll taste death. And I thought, no way. But it's so
It's so
true,
true.
isn't it?
Yeah. And
You
people are always
stink.
shocked and disgusted when we say that, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's so true. I just remember that lecture so vividly, and Tim saying that, and then after a while spending time around dead bodies, just really understanding what he was talking about.
Yeah, it is so
Yeah.
true, isn't it? And sometimes you would have been out to a body and you'd walk back into the station, you'd walk in the office, and someone would be like, oh, and they could tell what type of scene you'd been at
Yeah, because you
just by the smell on you.
stunk. There was two things that would get a reaction from people in the station. You'd walk in and it was either if you'd been to a cannabis farm
Yeah.
or if you'd been to a body. You'd come in and you'd absolutely stink.
Yeah, yeah. Gross. That, like you say, that repeating on you, like if you did a burp or anything after and you could retaste it, it's just, that's pretty disgusting, to be fair, isn't it?
It really is. It's funny, I don't think people realize how much the smell actually clings to you either. I remember a disaster that we were working on, and we had been working in a hangar all day with personal property that had been removed from the deceased. And at
Yeah.
that time, we were part of the team that were processing the property, basically photographing it, logging it, then helping with the cleaning process, and then photographing it when it was clean in order for it to be put into a catalogue and then hopefully repatriated back to the family. When it had come initially from the deceased, they were in different conditions and of course
Mm,
had body fluids and tissue and a number of things still attached to them, and the smell was bad, wasn't it? And
really bad.
there was a friend of ours working with us, Carrie, and she'd not really dealt with much of this stuff previously because she was a counsellor. She was there for therapeutic reasons, wasn't she?
Yeah,
But she got stuck in and she did absolutely
she was
brilliantly.
fantastic.
But when we left, we were saying to her, like, you stink, you'll stink, it'll cling to you. And she couldn't wrap her head around it and she couldn't smell it on herself. And then
No.
we got back to the hotel and she got in the lift and there was a couple all dressed up to the nines ready to go out for a night on the town. And Carrie walked in all of her workwear, absolutely stinking. And she said, I see what you mean. She said their faces, they looked like they wanted to balk and they got out of the lift. And she was like, what, is that me? And we were like,
Yes,
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 it
it
is
is.
you. You stink.
Yeah, bless her. I think it was a shock to the system for her, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And we taught her that trick as well, didn't we? About the inhale,
inhale.
get a big breath of it, and then it'll be out. And I think at first she thought we were kind of messing with her.
She thought we were joking, pranking her, didn't we? As
Yeah,
if
and then
we would be that cruel.
I know, yeah. That would be cruel, to
That
be
would be cruel.
fair.
Actually,
When someone's
we wouldn't be that cruel.
No, we wouldn't. Someone's just dealing with that sort of thing for the first time. It's quite intense. So
It
that would have
is.
been really bad.
No, we were supporting her through it, but I think she did think we were pranking her.
Yeah.
She looked at us like we were absolutely mental when we said breathe in, inhale.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you then? Because you've asked me about my first one there. Do you remember yours?
I do. Well, two things that stick out for me. The first one actually was our first post-mortem that we did together in training.
Yes. That was a
There was,
good one.
it
If you can
was,
ever say that.
no. Well, it was good because you find out whether you can do it or not because people often haven't seen dead bodies or been around this kind of thing, and then they're thrown into the field. And some people can't do it, some people can't cope with it. I know that there'd
No.
been a group in prior to us, a new intake of CSIs at the force the year before, and I think one or two people dropped out after going to the post-mortem.
Yeah.
So it is important training and it is important to know that you've got the stomach for it. So it was really good in that respect. But it was also an interesting one because the
Was.
guy had shot himself with an old, was it a shotgun? It was an old shotgun, wasn't it? An army
Yeah, it
one.
was a war one, and he'd recommissioned it, hadn't he? It
That's
was
right,
a
yeah.
decommissioned, and he recommissioned it,
And
and
shot
then he did a
himself.
under the chin here, didn't he?
Yeah. And it was fascinating to see the impact of that.
Oh, it was.
But also, you've got to remember this is our training one. I felt like such a plonker. throughout
Are you
that
going to
whole
tell
thing.
Are you going to tell your embarrassing story, Ange?
Which one? I think there was a couple from this. I think I was in fight or flight mode because I was just a plonker, if I'm honest.
Well,
So,
let's go with all of them.
well, first off, we'd been told the breathe in trick. And also another trick is if you start to feel lightheaded or like you might pass out, is to rock backwards and forwards, isn't it? From heel to toe, just to get the circulation going. And actually, it should keep you upright.
Yeah.
So I was kind of having a little rock and I was breathing in and I was absolutely fine. And then the pathologist, so this pathologist was brilliant. He's called Nigel Cooper and he's been doing it for a really long time. I thought he was fabulous. I really loved getting
Yeah.
postmortems with Nigel, I have to say. And he said, ask any questions you want. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So I'm stood there and I'm
Cue
thinking,
Ange.
yeah, literally. I'm stood there and I'm thinking, oh, is this a stupid question? I can't ask it. I can't ask it. And then I'm thinking, if I'm thinking it, other people will be thinking it. So this guy, bearing in mind that we were really looking at his head because, I mean, it was evident how he'd died, but it was still training post-mortem. So we were going through everything. But really thin, but he was slim. And then to me, it looked like his stomach had kind of caved in and dropped. Do you remember?
Yeah, I
And
do.
it looked almost like a concave, and I was like, that's so weird. So I was thinking about it, and then I thought, okay, he said there's no such thing as a stupid question. So I said, can I ask Dr. Cooper, why is his stomach like that? And he just went, because he's thin. And I thought, all right, there is such a thing as a stupid question.
Oops. Okay.
And the daft
Have a
thing was,
treat.
is I had thought to myself, he's just thin. But then I was thinking, no, because his stomach's that sucked in. It was almost like there was a section of it that was touching his spine. It was just weird.
It was almost like he was vac packed, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it was strange, I'll give you that.
And
Um,
then,
go
this is the
on.
worst bit. I thought that the guy on the table was called Jeff. I'd heard the name Jeff. And I think because I was in fight or flight and I was probably in my head a bit and I was like, you need to be okay. You need to be able to do this. It's part of your job. You've always wanted to do this. Be okay. Be okay with this. This is an awful sight. Oh my God, it stinks. Like all this stuff running through your brain. And then I heard Jeff. So I thought the dead man was Jeff. So I'm chatting away to him underneath my breath and I'm like, oh, Jeff, this is awful. I'm so sorry that you did this to yourself. Like trying to make myself feel better because I thought it was quite upsetting, the whole circumstances around it as well.
It was because
And
someone started talking about the circumstances and things, didn't they? And that side, the human side,
the real
starts
human
bringing the
side of it.
reality in.
And it was
It's
so
hard.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was, muttering under my breath. And you said to me, what you say? And I just said, oh, just poor Jeff, what a shame he's done it to himself. And you leaned over and you went, Jeff? And I'm like, yeah, Jeff. And you were like, no, the mortuary technician's called Jeff, not Jeff. And at that point, I was just like, oh my God. Started laughing. And really, it broke the ice and broke the tension for me. And I just
Yeah, it
thought,
did.
I've got to stop thinking and talking in here. I've just got to relax into this because I'm going into some kind of like manic lunatic state.
That was hilarious. That I'll never forget that.
Oh,
Yeah,
we laughed,
talking away to
didn't we?
Jeff. Him called Jeff.
What a plonker.
Brilliant. That was a good first one, though.
But
Interesting.
it was interesting, but also, do you remember? So the shotguns had gone through his brain and it shredded his brain, and it was very strange, wasn't it? It was a bit like an iceberg lettuce. Would that be fair to say?
A chopped
Um,
one.
a chopped one, yeah, or maybe minced beef. It was
Yeah, it was so
weird.
strange
It
to
was
see,
very
wasn't it?
strange,
And his
and
tongue.
yeah,
Yeah, it was weird to see.
oh, it was shredded as well, wasn't it?
Because you could just see the round, couldn't you? But then the
Mm,
tiny little dots around it. But then as we looked further, the pellets had like
just shredded
dissipated
through.
through, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was awful.
And then we all got back on the bus and everyone was a bit quiet, I think, a little
Oh,
bit shell-shocked and stuff. And then they took us straight back to headquarters and it was time for lunch. And didn't they have like chili beef or something on? And it was like,
it was
everyone's
minced
like,
beef and dumplings.
oh,
Everyone's like, no thanks.
no, thank you. No, thank you. But
Yeah.
interestingly, they do say that before you do a postmortem or deal with something like that, you should have something to eat because it
It's the
helps with the
sugars, isn't
sugar.
it? And
Yeah,
shock and yeah.
does help with the shock because even though you train for this and you want to do it, you still, some of it's still very shocking, isn't it? You do go into fight or flight. The adrenaline
Yeah.
goes without a
Yeah.
doubt.
I was always starving coming out of them.
And do you know, so was I. I
The
used to get really
hunger
hungry
pangs.
after a postmortem.
And I think
So
that's got to be to do with the shock and stuff, hasn't it?
yeah, I think it must be. And then coming that adrenaline leaving your system.
Yeah.
So that was like our training one, which we did as a group, didn't we?
Yes, we
And
did.
we didn't have anyone drop out from that, so that was really good. We kind of pushed through as a team. But then my first one on job was actually death by suicide, and it was a hanging, and it was awful. I don't think I'll ever forget it because the family were on scene.
Oh, that's a lot for your first one.
Yeah, it doesn't normally happen that way, does it? But there was a mum and dad and two brothers living in one house, and then grandparents lived next door in another house. Mum and dad had gone away, two boys together. They were not boys really, the men at this point. I think they were early 20s. And the two boys the night before had gone round for dinner with the grandparents and then come home and had a couple of beers together. And then they also worked together.
One
He,
close family unit, isn't
yeah,
it?
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was what's so traumatic about it, actually. And so one brother got up and he took himself off to work, and his brother was supposed to just follow on, and he usually did. He took him a bit longer to pull around in the mornings and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, he never turned up to work, and his brother got concerned. He was calling the house looking for him, and then he called his grandparents. So his grandparents went next door to look for them. They couldn't see him in the house. As they were walking back out, there was a window to a garage, and they saw him, and he'd hung himself in the garage.
Oh,
No indication of why. They all thought that they were very happy. They thought that he was happy and happy in his work. When I got
it's really
there,
sad.
bearing in mind the two properties are next door to each other, the police were already there and the grandparents was kind of at the police car and pulled up in the crime scene van. And then grandparents were there and just in an absolute state.
Oh, that's awful.
And it really, because we've talked about this before, you've got to have a certain level of detachment to be able to function and do your job, haven't you?
Yeah, you do.
And I think that when those things happen
Yeah.
and the reality behind it and the people that are impacted and the hurt and the sadness comes through, it washes over you and it makes it much
Does.
harder to detach. So they were kind of grabbing to my arm and they were saying, "What are you doing? Don't hurt him." So I chatted to them for a bit and I was explaining why I was there and what I was going to do. And I talked them through the process. And then I had to go in and do my job,
Yeah.
knowing that they were just outside and the state they were in. Oh, and it was just, yeah, it was a hard first one that it was pretty awful.
Sounds it. That would
It'll
be a hard enough one anyway, let alone for your first.
it'll stay with me forever, that one.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I think the suicide ones always are really difficult to deal with. You imagine like what the families and things are going to think. So to be confronted with that, it like face to face and have them there is really impactful.
Yeah, it is. I think that human element that pulls you back in always does that. I remember that I went to a drugs death. Oh my God, I've got a ridiculous, I don't know if I dare share the ridiculous part, but
Yes.
it's this guy had died in a really small box bedroom. So there was a
Yeah.
bed and there was a wardrobe and there was a dresser and that was about it. It was tiny and there was only a small kind of walkway. He'd died and I was trying to move around the room to photographs and get the camera in.
Oh no.
And I had to get across him and get to another part of the room. And I tripped and I landed in the wardrobe. It was Mortified.
Oh no. That's not what you want, is it?
It really is not what you want. I was mortified. My supervisor at the time was with me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like this fucking wardrobe.
Believe me, this was not a choice.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm like kind of like same level as the dead body, and I'm like, "Oh, get me out of here!"
At least you didn't land on them, imagine.
Oh God, no, I'd feel awful. Could you
You'd be
imagine if?
horrendous, wouldn't it? You'd
Now
be
that would
like,
be traumatic.
that bruise was me, that bruise was me. This
Yeah.
one, not so much.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
don't.
so
Oh.
sorry. You'd be saying, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff. Yeah, just call all dead bodies Jeff from now on. You'll
Uh,
never let me forget that, will you?
nah.
But anyway, this one, as I pick myself up out the wardrobe, carry on taking photographs, check the body down. It was a tricky one as well because he'd gone into rigor mortis. So I'd had to break his arm out of rigor mortis, and that's always a really tough thing to do. Check injection sites and make sure there was no other major injuries of any kind. So,
Yeah.
and as we're doing this, I kept hearing a phone go, and I knew the officer was going to need it, who was kind of stood at seeing guard just outside the door. And I had a look and I found the mobile phone ringing, and it said, "Ma'am, 26 missed
Oh,
calls."
oh
Oh God, I
God.
know. It broke my heart. It
Oh God.
really, again, pulled me out of that detachment and really
Yeah.
brought me back down to the real world with a thud. Because I just thought, he's someone's son, brother, grandson,
Yeah.
friend, like cousin. It was just
Oh
awful. But I just thought, it's poor mum. She's wondering where he is, and she's phoning and phoning
God.
and phoning.
That's all hard hitting. And then you've got the police officer who's then gonna have to make that contact and tell them.
Oh,
I
I
could not
couldn't
do
do
that job.
that.
I
No.
really couldn't.
I
Like you
think
see,
it
when you
must be
start
one
getting the
of the most
realities,
awful things for an officer to do, I think.
horrendous. The the human elements of death are definitely where it catches you more. I've had a few strange ones where you have the family involved, and that is definitely the ones that I think have impacted me more and that I'll
Yeah.
remember. I remember one suicide I'd went to and I'd never seen anything like it. I believe there'd been a separation between him and the partner, and I think that's what had finally drew him to do this.
Yeah.
But he'd hung himself as well, and it was from, like the stairwell, so off the spindles. He was like hanging
Yeah.
down from there. But he'd stripped down to just his boxers, so he had a pair of boxer shorts on. And then he had sellotaped photographs of the family all over him.
Oh my goodness, that's awful.
I'll never get that image out of my head. It was so bizarre, but it was like
Yeah.
they're with him as he'd
Yeah.
done it.
That's a bit
Oh,
heartbreaking, that, isn't it?
yeah, a really sad one, that as well. You do see some sights, don't you?
You do. I've got another suicide that I attended that you just reminded me of when you were talking about that guy, and that when you said that he was hanging from the spindles. I went to one where a woman had hung herself from the spindles using TV cable wire.
Oh,
Yeah, but she'd hung herself and a dog at the
oh,
same time. So
God.
her and the dog were back to back.
Oh, God. That's not something you see every day or expect to see.
No, it was so weird as well. Often when people hang themselves, their tongues bulge out, don't they? They bulge forward and
Yeah.
out. And her tongue was a bit like that, and her head was down. But the weirdest thing was that it was saliva coming from her mouth, but it had frozen.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was so weird. I couldn't get my head around it.
That's sweet. Was it really cold in the house or?
Well, she'd been really thoughtful and she'd planned this, and she had opened all the windows and got a dehumidifier to try and help with the smell.
Oh,
And she'd left a note saying that she was really sorry and that she couldn't carry on anymore, but that she couldn't bear to go to the other side without the dog. That's why she
Oh
took the dog with her.
God.
But I've got to tell you that that scene was probably the worst thing I've ever smelt.
Really?
Dead dog.
Oh God. Was that
So
bad?
it was so bad because she'd hung herself with thick cable. The paramedic was on scene because we always have to have a medical person to declare life extinct. And she was so
Yes.
very dead. The paramedic was like, I don't know why I'm here. This is ridiculous. And it's like, well, it's policy. But anyway, stayed and helped because we needed the seatbelt cutters to be able to get them down to get through the
Yeah.
cable. Couldn't just get through the cable or
God.
untie it. It was really difficult.
Yeah.
So there was me and an officer and the paramedic, and then a new young officer on the scene as well. And we were logistically trying to figure out how we cut them down. And of course, you want to be really respectful with the bodies. We
Mm.
didn't want them to drop, and we needed to take care of them. But as you know as well, dead bodies are also really very heavy,
A dead weight.
a dead weight, literally. So you have to be careful. So we were trying to figure it out logistically. So we decided we'd try and take the dog down first. And as we cut the wire and then the dog came down, when people die, they still have air in them, don't they? And when you move
Yes,
them,
the
the air
gases.
expels, the gases
Yeah.
expel. And it sometimes comes through the voice box. So some people can get freaked
Oh,
out
it's
because
weird.
it sounds like someone's talking or making a noise. So when you hear dead people maybe groaning, that's often what it is. It's the gases coming through the voice box, isn't it?
Such a strange thing.
Well, it happened with the dog. And as the dog came down and the officer moved it across on the floor, it went,
Oh no! Oh no! Oh,
oh, it was
that's so
awful.
sad.
But the
Oh,
smell that came out of it was
oh,
horrendous. So the new officer that hadn't been in long ran out the back and was throwing.
oh no!
Me and the older officer were laughing, not at the death or the situation, but like
But there's
at the young officer, we were like,
green
oh,
around the
bless,
gills.
yeah, like, bless him, look at him. Hopefully it won't traumatize him too much and he'll stay.
Yeah, come back.
Yeah, but the dog just went,
Oh, that's so sad. Oh, bless it. Because it didn't choose that.
it really did not know.
That's an interesting one then, isn't it?
It was for
So,
a variety of different reasons.
yeah, it sounds it. Oh, and I bet when you came back to the office and told people about that, everyone were like, "Oh, the poor dog."
That's exactly what happened. Whenever I've mentioned it to anyone, oh, the dog, oh, the
Yeah.
poor dog. Like, what about the poor woman?
I think it's because it's a shock, isn't it? Like you don't expect to
It's because you
hear
don't
that.
see it. So we'll see often a lot of suicides and you get a bit used to that, but you don't see somebody hanging with the dog. So everybody
No.
was intrigued by it. It was very strange.
So
It is.
seemingly between the two of we both seen a lot of suicides.
That's true. Because I could probably reel off a lot more
Yeah.
examples of them.
Yeah, I remember attending a lot of them, which again always just makes think just sad, really, really sad. I think we should probably move on from the suicides now because we have
Oh,
so
yeah.
many examples of them.
Yeah, that and we'll be just absolutely depressing everybody.
I know, sorry about that, listeners. So that was one of the main types of death scenes that was quite common for us, unfortunately, wasn't it? And you mentioned the drug deaths as well. I didn't really go to many drug deaths, but I know in the area you covered, you had a lot in your area, didn't you?
So, yeah, it was quite a frequent thing.
We've mentioned the suicides and the drug deaths. Another type of scene that I went to quite a lot was the either unexplained or unexpected deaths. So, not necessarily anything suspicious has happened, but at the time we don't know the reason for why this
Yeah.
person has passed. I know I mentioned that one for my first scene, but actually, over my time, I went to quite a lot of scenes like that, which is really quite sad because usually a lot of them would be people that they had been there for a while. And some of the decomposition in those ones can be quite a lot to deal with as well.
If they've been there for a long time, it depends on circumstances, doesn't it? Like time
It
frames, how
does.
long they've been there
Yeah.
for, whether the heating's on, temperature of the room, whether there's
Yeah,
any flies got in or if there's any animals there. There's lots of different circumstances that can impact on how quickly a body decomposes.
there is, isn't there?
So yeah, you do find people in lots of different states of decomposition.
Yeah.
You remember that guy on the toilet?
Yes.
So that
That
was
was an
an
interesting one.
unexplained death that we went to together, didn't we? So we were double
Mm.
crewed at this point because I had my hip replaced and I'd just coming back after my surgery. So I had to go out double crewed. We got called to this body. Now he was in quite a bad state of decomposition. I'd say it was interesting. But we pulled up and there was a police officer there and he was like, "Oh, you might want your mask."
Said it was really bad and take some deep breaths and things before we went in, didn't he?
Yeah, he was giving us heads up and we were like, can't be that bad. We've been to Lords. Anyway, we walked in and it was a
It
bad
was
smelling one,
pretty
wasn't it?
smelly.
It kind of hit us. So often people, when they're dying, will go to the toilet. People feel like they need to go to the toilet when the body's shutting down, when organs are shutting down. It's like feel a need for a release. So you often find people die on the toilet. It's not unusual, is it?
No.
And this guy had gone to the toilet and died there and then fallen forward. And sadly, nobody had reported him as missing. So it
No.
had been weeks, and I think it was the neighbour who eventually reported a funny smell coming from next door, effectively. And when we looked at the mail and I think he had a newspaper delivered, and I think we'd worked out that he'd been there nearly a month, something like that.
Yeah.
And so he was on the floor, his bum was still up on the toilet seat and his head
Yeah.
was down
It's kind of in a
on the
downward
floor.
dog sort of position,
It
wasn't
was a
it?
bit down dog,
Yeah.
yeah. And one of the things that happen when people die is you get what you call lividity and blood pools, doesn't it? It often
Yeah.
looks very blue or purplish. And he had blood pooling and also a massive swelling, didn't he?
He did. I remember this, yeah. Yeah, and
Oh,
nobody knew what it was, did they? Like the police
no.
officers and things were a bit stumped.
And so were the paramedics. And it was also meaning that there was questions around how he had died. So Dee got right in there, didn't you? Dee was like, I'm
Yeah.
going in.
So I'm on my hands and knees having a good look, like, what is this? Because at first we weren't sure if it was a massive kind of like hernia or something, like on the
Yeah.
external though. So we weren't sure what it was at all. It was not a hernia.
Wasn't was it? What was it, Dee?
It was his bollocks. My
You got
God.
Dee on her hands and knees, like
Yeah,
face up to this huge swelling. And then she just
yeah.
turns around and looks at me and goes, "It's his bollocks." No, northeast accent, which of course made me laugh.
So Ange's laughing her head off, and then I'm laughing my head off because Ange's absolutely laughing her head off. The police officers come in like, "What's the matter with you two? What's going on?"
And then when we told them what it was, they couldn't believe it, could they?
No, they were huge,
They were massive,
absolutely huge.
bigger
But
than his
what was
head.
Yeah, they were bigger than his head. And the weird thing was, it was not the lowest point because his
No,
hands were on the floor and his head was on the floor, but all the
all the
fluid had pooled in them. And he just had the biggest testicles ever.
I've ever seen.
They were, I mean, the fact I'm sat here like this, sizable comparison. They were bigger than his head. I've never seen anything like it.
No, it was quite shocking, really, and it was so weird.
And then I
The
stood up,
worst
didn't
bit.
I? And
Yeah,
realised that what looked like tiny white flecks on the floor were all baby maggots.
maggots.
And I
Oh,
was covered.
yeah, you were absolutely covered in them, weren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, we were out of there not long after that.
Yeah. Wow.
We were
We
like,
still chuckle just because it's just a sight you don't expect to see again. And it's how we deal with these things.
bit of a little chuckle.
Yeah. That was one of the most bizarre things I've seen.
It really was.
Yeah.
Again, that'll stay with me. Things stay with you, don't they? But for different reasons. Some are emotional, some are traumatic, some amuse you. Again, like we have to reiterate this: never laughing at the deceased or what's
No.
happened. Like always dealing with people with the utmost dignity and respect. It's so important. But sometimes you just have to break the tension with a laugh. Like
Yeah,
dark
you
sense of
do.
humor and gets you through these things. You're faced with something like that and no one can figure out what's going on.
No.
Send Dean on her hands and knees, she saw it.
I don't mind, I'll get amongst it. What's going on here then? Yeah, I don't think I needed to get that
funny.
close.
I don't think you did. Your nose was up there. Little maggot on the end of your nose.
Oh, don't even. They still gross me out now, maggots.
And
Oh.
do you remember that cherry?
Oh.
Dee was eating a punnet of cherries once at the investigation office, and I'm sat next to her, and I don't really like cherries, and she's nibbling away, and then she takes a bite of half of one, and I'm like, Dee, what's that? And then you just saw it out the corner of your eye, didn't you?
Yeah, just poked its head out.
Little maggot poked its head out. Like,
Had to look
"What's
around
that?"
and then went back inside the cherry. Whole punnet in the bin. I was gutted.
And it did nothing for me in my dislike of cherries. I can tell you that. It was horrid. So we've encountered death, like we've talked about for many different reasons. And
Yeah.
death investigation in the UK is really interesting. The coroner has jurisdiction over all dead bodies and will issue death certificates if it's non-suspicious. The coroner's officer will do a lot of that work, and then the coroner makes the decision about what the cause of death was. And if it is suspicious, the coroners still investigate those cases, but the criminal investigation goes first. And everybody has a different role and remit, don't they?
They do, yes.
In a post-mortem, for instance, you'll often have quite a few people, particularly if it's a big case, won't you? So sometimes the senior investigating officer will come down to a post-mortem. Not always, but some do like to. You'll have the mortuary technician there who assists the pathologist. You'll then have the forensic pathologist. And then it used to be that you'd have 3 crime scene investigators present. And then even after post-mortem's done and the forensic pathologist's finished, a defence pathologist might want to do another post-mortem potentially.
It's a fascinating part of the job to be involved in, isn't it?
I morbidly used to really enjoy the death part of it. After I got over that first post-mortem we did where I made a plug of myself. Obviously never happy that somebody has died, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And it was a part of the job that I did enjoy.
Me too. I think the fascination of it takes over. I think it's where you see the investigation side of it, isn't it? Where you've got someone before you and actually getting those answers for the families and things. They're like, what was the cause of death? I don't like they don't have an understanding of what's happened. And to be able to get them answers through the post-mortem is so interesting to see and find out.
It is. And if you get a good pathologist as well, you work with a great pathologist, they will teach you. So you're always learning about the human body and the amazing things that happens and that it can do. And if you ask them any questions, usually if you're interested, they're keen to have those teaching moments, aren't they? So you see so much and you learn so much.
Yeah. If you have to definitely have a strong stomach for that side of it with the sights you see and the smells in them are really not pleasant.
No, because often the stomach contents are removed, and that was one of the worst
bit.
bits. Yeah, it was. I remember a post-mortem that I went to, and the guy had been out on the beer, and then he'd been out for a curry, and then he was killed. And the stomach contents, well, not much puts me off stuff, but it actually put me off curry for a good couple of months, honestly.
It's really bad, isn't it? I'm shaking my head while you do it because I've had one like that, and yeah, it's pungent.
I remember one guy, he was a really big guy, and once he was open, it was difficult to see beyond him. So I was at the foot of the bed, and the mortuary tech was at the head, and I couldn't see the mortuary tech, and they couldn't see me. And we had to ladle out fluid there was 3 of us ladling.
Oh, wow. Oh, that is gross.
It was gross. It was fascinating though, because I just couldn't believe it. I was like, where has all of this come from? Obviously, it's like fluid, but then because it's got adipose in, it's greasy. It's like greasy water, but it was
Yeah.
yellowy, and then also it had blood in it. So it was the color was interesting. The greasiness of it and everything about it was just unbelievable. And the amount that we ladled out was
Oh,
unreal.
I hope no one's listening at lunch.
I know, yeah. Don't have your lunch while listening to
To be
this.
fair, we did say it was a death episode. You know there's going to be some grossness in here.
I know we should maybe put a warning out to people before we play this. Do not play if.
If you're about to eat curry and drink a beer.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking people might find this quite traumatic themselves. Like this is going out into a public forum. It's not something we usually discuss quite openly, is it? So
No,
we did say that that's what this podcast was going to be about, though, and we were going to be honest
we did.
and discuss the realities. So
Yeah.
I think one of the things that people often ask us as well, does it affect you? Does it bother you?
Yeah.
What would you say to that then?
I think in the main, I would say no. But I think there is always going to be bits that do stick with you, and there'll be odd ones that catch you and affect you for different reasons. But I think if most of them are affecting you, you've got an issue. You need to be able to detach, don't you?
Yeah,
What
that's
about
true.
you?
Uh, yes, some of it is sad and traumatic. Some stuff does stay with you, but there is a level of detachment, and I did enjoy that part of the job. I can't tell a lie, I did.
No.
And I think that even though we say that it hasn't affected us, it doesn't seem to have too detrimentally in any way. We've
Yes.
been fortunate, I would say, very fortunate in that respect. But we're here talking about them.
Yeah,
So they're in there.
this is very true.
We can pull it straight to mind. We can see it. We can smell it.
Yeah.
We can put ourselves back in those rooms, in those places, and see those people. So it hasn't affected us detrimentally, touch wood. Certainly not
Yeah.
at the minute, it hasn't bit us in terms of PTSD or flashbacks or anything like that. But you never know what's going to happen in life, do you? You don't know how much trauma
No.
can the brain take before it finally
Yeah, it's
pops. I don't
true.
know.
And like you say, those scenes we've discussed there, I can see them so vividly still.
Plain as day.
Yeah.
So I suppose it does affect us, whether we think it does or not. Does
Yeah,
it
this is
bother
very
us? I
true.
suppose that's a different thing altogether,
Yeah,
isn't it? Like,
I suppose that is the thing, isn't it? Because I did have a therapist say to me once, exactly kind of along the lines of what you've just said. She said, you're not like worrying about it or stressing about it. And said, but the fact you can name all of these things says it is imprinted on your brain in one shape or another. And I know around it was to do with some of the disaster work we had done. And I was like, when that date comes around, I always think of like the air crashes we've been involved with and things. You know, the date that went down, and
yeah,
those dates like mean something. And she was
yeah.
like, well, the very fact that you think about it on that date suggests it has had an impact, whether you think it or not. It has impacted if you can just recall it like that, and the date comes around, and you're like, oh, and think of it straight away.
Yeah, but mass fatality is a whole different ball game. It's like seeing mass death is
Yeah,
awful.
it
I
is,
have
isn't it?
to say, I've seen some of the worst body conditions from mass fatalities
Yeah,
than I have in crime scene. I've seen some awful
one,
stuff in crime scene, but I've seen in terms of the conditions of body because it's such high impact trauma.
yeah, 100%.
Mm,
In crime scenes, we mostly deal with whole bodies, don't we?
yes,
And it's usually one body, or maybe if there's been a few people killed in one scene, you might have a few bodies. But actually, I don't think I ever dealt with a multiple in my career. It was always single death until we moved into the mass
mass
disaster arena.
disaster.
Yeah. And then it isn't whole bodies so much, it's multiple people, but very rarely did you get a whole body either, did you? So it was pieces, which is very different to deal with.
Yeah, but I tell you, there was a couple of whole bodies that I saw, and they are emblazoned on my brain.
Yeah,
But I know what you're saying. There's very few.
but it's so strange, isn't it? The difference, because the mass disaster we're talking about, the ones we've dealt with, have all been from air crashes, haven't they?
They have,
So
yeah.
like you say, it's high impact, a lot of speed, a lot of force involved, affecting the body. Sometimes fire involved. So yeah, very very different state.
The other thing with the mass disasters as well is when we deal with the personal effects
Yeah.
and you find out people's backstories and you are dealing with their property and their personal effects, the last things that they were wearing or carrying, things that were important to them, things that were taken with them.
Yeah, that's really impactful, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I remember one air crash where a woman had died and she had just had a baby scan. She
I
was
remember that.
pregnant.
That was awful,
It
wasn't
really
it?
was. Yeah, and I don't know why, but from beginning to end of that deployment, that family seemed to follow me around and the
Yeah.
scan and more details about this family. And they were actually, it was a couple and they were on board with a little girl. And then
Oh,
she was pregnant and it was just heartbreaking.
yeah, that's awful. I think the only thing that gets you through that is because it is heartbreaking and it is a lot to deal with seeing mass death like that. And like you say, when you start looking at the property and you feel like you're getting to know people a bit more, it
Yeah.
becomes so much more impactful, I think. But what kind of gets you through that is you know that you're just doing this for the victims' families and trying to get things back to the families so because in these incidents, as we were mentioning, the bodies are in quite a bad condition
Mm.
usually. So not many families get to view the bodies, do they?
No
And that's if they do get a whole body
body.
back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of them just get pieces and there mightn't be much of the loved one to go home. So they don't get to see them in the same way. So for some, I can imagine that being really hard to and being hard but impacting on your grief because some people like to see the body, don't they, to be able to then process and move on.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people can stay in denial if they
Yeah.
haven't seen a body or seen any evidence of the death because it's such a shock to the system
Yeah.
and it's so quick and so unexpected
Yeah.
that I think that there can be denial there. And I think
Yeah.
people sometimes like to see the body because it's a bit of finality. It's like funerals, isn't it? They're often closure.
Yeah. Closure for people. That's a
Mm.
good way of putting it. Yeah. So if someone can't see the body, don't have that closure, then to be able to get some bits of property and things back to them feels like they've got, well, proof that they were there, first of all, so
Yeah,
you can process that. But then I think also once the body is gone, that's so final to be able to give them a bit of property back that they can then cherish and keep or do whatever they want with. I think that feels really rewarding to be part of, doesn't it?
it really does. There's been some debate on deployment
Yeah.
where people who work in the funeral industry or embalming industry think that the body is the be all and end all. And granted, like we've got to get the body back
Yeah.
and hopefully identified and repatriated back to that family. That is the goal. But
Yes.
often they'll prioritize it. And I've found and felt that some people have been disrespectful towards personal effects and think of it very much as a secondary and don't consider the impact. Where I actually think that personal effects are so important and are such a priority. And we know because we've
Too.
repatriated and taken personal effects back to families and sat with them when they've opened them. And we know what that means to people because, like you
That's,
say, they don't always get to see the body.
no.
And having their personal effects gives them a something that they can
Yeah.
hold, something that they can touch, something that was a part of their loved one.
Yeah.
And it's so precious.
Yeah.
And it means so much, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I think that the repatriations that we did and the families that we met, some of that was the most rewarding work I've ever done.
Mine too. Definitely. It's one of the things that'll always stick with us. And again, when we were talking earlier about that human side where it's difficult to deal with the families, um, but because you just get that reality there, that it's difficult, but so, like you say, so rewarding to be part of that. It does feel like all the hard work and the stress and sometimes the horrific things you see, it's worth it to then see like how much they appreciate it and how much it
Yeah,
means so rewarding.
it really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yay, well, I think that might be a good place to round up this episode because I'm hoping we haven't depressed everybody, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's been a morbid episode, but I again have enjoyed talking about it, probably because, like I say, it was one of the parts of the job that I enjoyed. It is fascinating, I think. I find death fascinating. I look at death a bit differently since I've been a scene investigator. So I think that you see in this job how quickly life can be taken. And I think that helps toward having an attitude of gratitude about your life and how lucky you are and the people you have in it and that we wake up on a morning because
Yeah.
it's never guaranteed, is it?
No, just don't take it for granted.
Don't ever take anything for granted. Yeah, and I think that the air disasters taught us that more than anything in
Yes,
particular.
they did.
So
So hopefully we've answered some people's questions that we frequently get around death. Hopefully you've all learned something from it and we haven't just been so depressing.
just depressed everybody.
Hopefully people find it as interesting as us. And if we still haven't answered some of your questions about death, drop it in the comments and we can always pick that up at a later date as well. So
Yeah.
let us know if there's anything around it that we've not answered.
Yeah, we'd be really happy to answer any questions from any of our listeners. So you can get in touch on our email address, info@thecrimesceneinsiders.com, or drop them in the comments on our socials and we'll try and address them in our episodes. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back in a fortnight's time with another episode. And if you remember, we're going to be with a death investigator. Her name is Julie Wolfe, and she's from the US. So we're going to be talking about death investigation in the US and her job and what she does. And she's an amazing woman. So we're really looking forward to that one. So we hope you can join us in a fortnight's time when we'll take you back under the barrier tape.